When we were originally looking at this house, before that time, we were actually looking in Southside for several of the properties that were available then. Unfortunately, they'd all been snapped up. A couple people from the city had reached out to us about this particular house that was about to be torn down or condemned at the time. And we looked at it. It was a lot larger project than we thought we could handle. But we decided to go ahead and do it. One of the things that actually pushed us over the edge is the fact that it's so close to the Greenway project, and to see that incorporate and maybe get a little more of the downtown combined and get the downtown neighborhoods more related to one another and tied together. And so we thought it would be a good property at that time to move on renovating. One of the things about the house that kind of pulled us in was a couple things. Is on the exterior. I actually did 4 years of architecture school and then did an architectural renovation internship before I went to engineering school. And the renovation company that I worked for actually looked for these houses that had the asphalt siding on them, because they knew a lot of times that the other materials underneath were not damaged. A lot of times the same with aluminum.
Yeah, our neighbor Hannah, who worked for the city, she is the one who told us about the house, and she also told us that when they had pulled back the siding that was on the outside, that the wood was intact, that a lot of the original features could be preserved.
The second thing was, when we came inside, despite the layers and layers of wallpaper and the tons of coats of paint, pretty much every single piece of millwork in this house is still intact. I mean, when you see the filming of the baseboards and things, obviously it's been cut up for electrical outlets and things, but door frames, most of the doors, with the exceptions of the latch styles, are very, very intact. And all the fireplaces, mantle pieces, were intact. The fireplaces themselves, a little more sad story, but the woodwork was phenomenal. And the other thing, including the windows, which is a big deal, because almost every time you renovate a house like this, you end up having to just gut all the windows out. We went with a local company, Double Hung, because that's a project that was way beyond what I could do on my own. And we pulled all the windows, and they were able to salvage them. We were able to we salvaged every single window. They're all still double hung windows. They're all on counterweights. The only window we had was one that had too much water damage on the south end of the house on the second floor. That was it. That we had to, all of the other ones are the original windows, and we just, like I said, we only had to remanufacture one window to match those, and we went ahead and had Double Hung build exactly that window again, since we really didn't want one modern window in the house when the rest of them were already the originals.
So a lot of the challenges that we had initially were things that nobody told us, and that we sort of didn't have any information about how the process was going to go forward. So we knew that the house had been condemned, and we knew that it was in very bad shape. We also knew that there had been articles in the News and Record about wanting to save it, and there seemed like there was this big effort, to save it. But nobody during any of that time told us that once a house is condemned, even if it's a historic property, that you still have to go before this commission constantly, and they are trying to push you to have it done in a really short time frame. So one of the big pitfalls that we had was that we were told that there was no lead.
There's no way around it. If you're looking at a house of this age, you're going to find lead, some way, shape, or form.
The advice that I would give people, first of all, is to get involved with your preservation societies, because those are going to be a good resource for you. They're going to have recommendations for people who can do work. They're going to be able to help guide you. I would also make sure that you know what your city and county situation is with the way that they handle historic properties, because I'm sure it's not exactly the same every place that you go. So you may want to find out, so if the house is condemned, what's the protocol? If there's been some other issue, what kind of inspections are you going to need? What kind of red tape are you going to have to get through? And find some people who can help guide you with that. I would definitely find out who in the city deals with the historic properties. So usually there's going to be somebody in the city who deals with permits and things like that, because there are going to be different codes that you have to deal with depending on if you're replacing or restoring things. And so if you know who that person is, so they can help guide you, make sure you're making the right choices before you have somebody come in to do an inspection, that's going to be really helpful.
Well, one of the good discoveries, I think, was the beadboard ceilings in the downstairs. The house pretty much is, I believe it had 3 layers of ceilings on it when we pulled them all down. At least, they all had at least one of that lovely 12 by 12 acoustic tiles that people loved at one point in time. I'm not sure why. It is going to leave a lot, when you see some of the pictures, you'll see that it's going to leave a lot of duress nail pops or nail marks in the ceilings, and it takes a lot of patience to pull a lot of nails. But the beadboard it's definitely unique, and most of it, even if it's duressed, I think it's going to be a rather unique feature of the house, and that was one of the unexpected things. So one of the things for me about doing a house like this is an advantage is it does have to do with a love of the history and of the craftsmanship in these things. It's so frustrating to me whenever I'm doing home construction projects now, and you see so many shortcuts and things like that, and you're just not going to be able to duplicate a house like this from scratch. It just can't happen. And you're going to have the fact that you're building a structure or working on a structure that is really sound and really intact and far better built than anything you're going to buy today. I have to say that's one of the big things, and for me, as far as like this being an advantage or advantageous to do. And it may have the fact I was just raised this way. It's like you salvage old things. You don't fill the landfill. So.